Every technological revolution displaced a massive number of jobs, but created so much new wealth. The displaced found other jobs in new industries. Most people used to work on farms, then oil and tractors displaced them. Then, most people used to work in factories, but globalization and automation displaced them. Today, most people work in service and desk jobs, and AI is coming for their jobs next. Every transition has been fought by those claiming it would be disastrous, but the economy kept growing anyway. If you asked people during the transition, what will those who are being displaced do next? Nobody would have been able to answer that question with certainty, yet they found jobs anyway. So is the fact we can't answer that question with certainty this time either any different? Will this time be different? First, let's state the problem clearly. We actually have two questions to answer. 1. This transition seems inevitable, but everything in economics is a trade-off between different choices. If you pursue one path, you can't pursue another. So what are the constraints that would prevent this transition from taking place? 2. The question we asked earlier, what will all the displaced people do next? Almost all of economics is at its foundation a math problem, an attempt to optimize some equation subject to some number of constraints. Traditionally, those constraints were summarized as land, labor, and capital, but I will argue those are constraints of a bygone era. It's becoming increasingly obvious future economic growth and productivity will have only a single constraint: energy. In a world of AI and AI-powered robotics, all the traditional limitations of the past start to melt away. Robots can operate 24 hours a day. They don't get tired, sick, or have a midlife crisis. They just need energy. Any problem that can be reduced to information in, information out, will be done instantly by AI, which is run by energy-hungry data centers. Think about it. Most of the Earth is ocean. We can make new land. With humanoid robots, we don't need workers. With nearly infinite productivity, tiny investments yield massive returns. So how could capital be constrained? It's all about energy. This is the key gate that must be cleared for this vision of the future to become reality. Do we have enough energy? I will continue, assuming we do. As AI makes workers dramatically more productive, even though their labor actually becomes much more valuable, I would expect the number of hours worked to decline substantially on average, just as oil and robots have transformed agriculture and manufacturing to be much less labor dependent. If AI is successful in giving us nearly infinite productivity growth, it's unlikely we will work the same number of hours because even if humanity can consume much more, the demand for most goods is not insatiable. There will eventually be a glut. Maybe that point of satiation is much higher than where we are today, but eventually there will be a ceiling. Even from the perspective of workers, if your material needs become met with less work, your incentive to keep working goes away. In microeconomics, there is a common model describing the trade-off between labor, typically represented as hours worked, and leisure, or hours spent not working. As with almost anything else in life, hours worked will follow the law of diminishing marginal returns, which simply means each additional hour worked has less benefit than the previous hour worked. Eventually, the benefit derived from the next hour of work will not be sufficient to compensate you for the value you derive from leisure, and you stop working. But however many hours are needed, we would not expect them to be evenly distributed across the entire population. Some people will work the same number of hours and make way more money, and others will work fewer hours and make way less, and probably others will not find work at all. Just as in the past, the biggest winners will be those who own the new technology or learn to use it to solve problems that previously required an order of magnitude more workers. But the important point is because the total hours worked will decline in aggregate across the entire economy, everyone else will, on average, have more leisure. I suspect subsidized by government services paid for by the previously described winners, if for no other reason than to prevent riots. Regardless of what new jobs people find, it's important to emphasize the benefits of growth during past transitions were concentrated in the hands of those who owned the new technology, and the lucky few who had the foresight and ability to transition into the right growing sectors. But there may be other sectors that benefit from the general increase in average wealth. So who are the winners? Industries that serve the AI itself, cater to the new technology elite and their tastes, or the newly bored looking for entertainment? AI will need energy, a lot of it, data centers and robots built from new materials, so mining. Some industries using AI become obscenely profitable when fully automated, like agriculture, manufacturing, real estate. Healthcare and education will likely be free. We already know what wealthy people like: fancy homes, fancy clothes, fancy vacations, fancy restaurants. There's no reason to believe any of that will change. In order to predict what everyone else will do with all those new leisure hours, we will need some speculation. I suspect those who don't learn to leverage AI will backlash against it and create demand for human interaction everywhere, even if the human they are interacting with is secretly using AI anyway. In that world, value will not be the ability to get an answer, because answers will be ubiquitous and free. It will be the ability to explain an answer. In a world where information and things are abundant, people will crave and be driven by credibility. A perfect example happening even today is the trend away from following mainstream media and towards following reputable individual journalists. Everything you need to know is available for you to find online yourself, but you will still go to people you trust to curate it for you. And that job no longer requires an army of correspondents digging for news, because people are self-reporting through social media. What used to take 100 people now takes one. What used to be a corporation is now a credible individual. I don't believe that type of transition will be isolated to media. Money will be in your reputation and reach. People with leisure time will be looking for human interaction from genuine and trustworthy individuals. Be one of those genuine and trustworthy individuals, and you will find success anywhere, because the skill set required to deal with people is consistent across all industries when you have a little expert AI bot in your ear feeding you the answers. Bottom line, if you're one of the winners, it's because you build or use the AI. Invest in companies that build or use the AI, or you're a representative of the AI, a human interface of the AI tasked only with human interaction. What will everyone else do? It's difficult to know for sure, but probably just more of what people already do now when they're not at work. Entertain, travel, exercise, and art are the most obvious answers. Let me know in the comments what you think. AI is not evil, it's just the next step in the natural progression of human tools. We have always built tools to make our lives easier. The problems and risks are not in the tools themselves or the desire to build them, but whether we can build institutions to ensure they are used responsibly and everyone has an opportunity to benefit. If you found this content helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. It really does help get this channel more exposure and keep me motivated to produce more content.